Velvet. That's my name. You can give Artorias my regards. My name is Velvet Crow, and I will devour demon, Moloch, and exorcist alike!
Just a little over a year ago, Bandai Namco released its first title in their Tales of Remastered project, Tales of Graces F Remastered. Since then, we also got Tales of Exilia Remastered last fall. Two great titles to be sure, but now we've reached what I think is the best of the three so far, Tales of Berseria. And so, here we are yet again to discuss and review another remastered game in this series. Hello everyone, it is so good to see you. Doing this for the third time, I thought I understood how to approach this by now, but this is a little bit of a different situation than the other two. Graces and Exilia were previously locked on the PlayStation 3 with no real feasible way to access it today. And while both have their own great merits as main entries in the series, it's also important to critique them as remasters as much as individual games. I know I've mentioned this in other reviews, but simply attaching the term remaster or remake sets a lot of expectations on the product. Someone will expect a complete visual or even mechanical overhaul for a game getting remade. But what about a remaster? Touched up graphics, quality of life improvements, and a game that runs smoother than its original release. These are, arguably, the very base of what most people will expect from a remaster. But does Tales of Berseria do that much? Compared to the last two remasters, this one, at first glance, makes it much harder to tell. The original was released on the PlayStation 4, and that version is available to play on the PlayStation 5, and you can also purchase it on Steam right this very second. The visuals here would be the first thing people notice about this game, right? For the most part, when put side by side, the difference is often not noticeable unless you've zoomed into specific objects or foliage. I think I'm split over the upscaled graphics. From a cinematic point of view, the background will often have blurrier resolution, but that creates a simulation of a shallow depth of field. This often separates the subject from the surroundings for a professional, focused, and artistic look that you'll often see in cinema and photography. But that is lost when you evenly sharpen every asset across the board. Even assets in the background look sharp, and there's a part of me that feels like this artistic, painterly direction the series often goes for is lost with this decision. It's one example of how upscaling every asset in sight doesn't necessarily make a game look better. It's not really a series, and more notably a game, that needs a higher resolution. To justify more advanced graphics, you would be better off remaking the art style from scratch, and I get the feeling that's beyond their projected scope right now. And this is the most damning thing that people will be critical about with this game, especially those who have already played the original. At first glance, there's almost nothing visually improved about this game. And because of this, Bandai Namco has to really hammer in every single bullet point of a difference in this game. Sometimes it feels like it's being marketed just to people who have already played before as they try and goad you to buy it again. People who never touched this game aren't going to care about faster item pickups, new icon indicators, or the fact that you move on the map faster because they have no context for the original. The biggest deal with this remaster is that Tales of Berseria is being released for Nintendo Switch and on Xbox. This, like previous remastered entries, will also be $40 US for the standard edition, which is a price point that is looking more and more appealing these days. There's a lot of people who never got the opportunity to play these games that finally will have that chance to. That is the best part of the remastered project, simply broadening the reach beyond freeing the older titles from the singular console they were tied to. I don't recommend the $60 deluxe edition because that comes with a digital art book, a soundtrack, the legacy battle music, and just a set of consumable items. Honestly, not worth the cost as much as actually playing the game itself. Despite being a remaster, there's also not much to expect in terms of improved frame rates. Moving models and monsters in the distance still perform with the same frame rate and stutter as usual, but the vast majority of the game runs stable at least. You'll also be locked to 30 FPS if you're playing on Switch. Though the site does say that they're looking into compatibility for Switch 2. Whether that gets an update in the future, only time will tell. It hurts me to be critical about this from the perspective of being a bare minimum remaster and also judge it based on the original game itself, because Berseria is a fantastic game. Even though Tales of Arise is the most recent title, this one captures more of the unique characteristics that make this feel more like a Tales title than that one. Berseria boasts one of the most interesting cast of characters in the series, literally a band of ragtag misfits and criminals, and one child. Your main character, Velvet, endures a very traumatic part of her life that completely changes her from human to a demon. She loses someone very dear to her because of the actions of one man, and her sole purpose in life is killing that one who has taken everything away from her. The story introduces you to Velvet as an ordinary girl, placing emphasis on the contrast of her character as the years passed. Not long into it, you'll come to realize that, compared to other happy, bright and heroic stories that the Tales series is commonly known for, this game isn't anything like that. There's a level of brutality and misconduct from our party that we normally don't see in these games. We see Velvet nearly burn a man alive within the first hour of controlling her. Not only is this take on a protagonist very refreshing for the series, it's also executed expertly well. It is easy to look at this and assume that it's just trying to be an edgy tale of one person's pursuit for vengeance, but Velvet is genuinely a well-written anti-hero. She's very stoic and closed off, while much of the supporting cast is much more charismatic and aloof, each providing their own traits that are an effective foil to her. Literally half of your cast were imprisoned convicts, and it's fantastic to see them interacting with each other and the world around you while still in the mold of a Tales title. The real-time combat in Berseria takes a different approach to the other two remaster titles that we've reviewed. The 4 face buttons each link to a tree of arts that can be performed at different points in a combo, allowing you to freely mix and match your skills depending on what the situation calls for. The game will provide a lot of default assigned arts for you, but you'll be prompted to change and experiment with them yourself. Each art has attributes that are more effective to some enemies than others. Monsters and other foes also have souls which you can steal, activating Velvet's Therian arm to cause even more havoc in battle. You'll get a buff depending on the type of enemy that you're facing, and you can keep the loop going by expending and stealing souls with the right attacks. You're encouraged to utilize different facets of battle, from arts, combo extending break skills, targeting enemy weaknesses, dodging attacks with perfect timing, and soul stealing as you unleash your attacks. More than most other Tales games, this has an intricate plethora of mechanics that make it feel even more like a fighting game than a JRPG at times. This level of involvement extends to other components that tie into battles, like your equipment. Berseria has a unique approach to gear as well. Everything from weapons, armor, and accessories each have their own little traits and bonuses attached to them. A weapon you found in the wild or dropped from a monster might have some slightly different affixed stats or bonuses, and can unlock even more as you fight with them equipped in battle. Furthermore, you're able to refine and strengthen your gear at shops as long as you have the money and right materials to do so. This makes it so that even equipment with the exact same name might have wildly different stats from one to the next. It's not as simple as raising your attack with each weapon or raising defense with armor. You'll quickly notice that almost all gear will increase one stat while decreasing another, requiring you to be more mindful of how you load your characters out. And while not strictly gear, titles that you earn over the course of the game also have their own attributes that can alter your stats as you level up. All of these avenues for customization allows you the freedom to build your characters the way that you want to in your playthrough. Or, you can just go for the big green numbers and not think too hard about the finer details. Berseria will ease and nudge you towards getting acclimated to the depths that this game offers, but not force you if you rather hit buttons and go headfirst into battle. You'll often be supported by your allies after all. It's funny to even call them allies when many of your supporting casts can't really trust each other when they meet. From Rokuro, a carefree samurai turned demon who feels obligated to help Velvet because he feels he owes her a great debt, to Aizen, the first mate of Ifrit's pirate crew who is eternally cursed to bring ill fortune to everyone and himself, thus is known as the Reaper. You got quite the range of characters here. It is definitely Magilu's wacky antics and interactions with characters like Velvet that really steal the show at times. Add in a character like Eleanor, an exorcist whose job is to eliminate demons, and you have a crew that could not possibly be any more different from one another. Sometimes the setup is literally a witch, a pirate, and a samurai walk into a bar. And that's just what makes every interaction so interesting between our cast and the world. It's expressed in such unique ways too. There are some towns that are intentionally very gratingly joyous and celebratory in its people and music. There is a stark contrast compared to the vibe of your party that's screaming out, trying to make you notice, as you start to wonder if the exorcists who are meant to protect the world from demons really are all that chivalrous. Like other modern Tales games, there's not really a true open world map to explore. The field is essentially one big spread hallway from one town or dungeon to the next. But I do appreciate that there's a little more variety and that everything feels at least a bit more organic. Thanks to the remaster, you also don't have to have the game read you a description of every single shiny item that you find on the field. You'll see the description once and then never see it again. I do praise this version of the game for allowing for much snappier pacing. Your movement on the field is a little faster than in the original, and you can fast travel without restriction fairly early on with some occasional story limitations. And something that I noticed right away while playing on the PS5, loading and saving are ridiculously faster than on the PS4. I was shocked at how it takes literal seconds to save compared to how long it takes the PS4 to open up its built-in UI. As with the other entries in the Remastered project, you can once again begin with the Great Shop unlocked at the very beginning of the game. Nearly all of these bonus options can be toggled mid-game, so you're free to experience Berseria as either a first-time player or a veteran that wants that New Game Plus feeling right from the start. It's still one of my favorite additions to these re-releases. The freedom of options is always great to see. And before I forget, it's important to note that this game, along with the other Tales titles, is available to play local multiplayer. One player roams the world while others can join you in battle. It lacks the ability to do this online, but if nothing else, the series has remained consistent in this avenue for those who love experienced story-based games together. For as much as the tone vastly contrasts that of most other Tales games, this one holds very strongly to the visual identity it's established over the years. In many titles, animated skits appear throughout the entire game, most often as optional extra banter and world building. And that's still the case here. You can press the button whenever it's prompted in the corner of the screen, but you can tell that Berseria was very proud of their animated skits because now, they're not simply those optional extra scenes. They will be seamlessly implemented during the main story itself, adding variety instead of opting to always display the character models on screen. The more recent Tales of Arise, in contrast, abandoned the anime-style skits and opted to use character models throughout, which I felt is one of the factors that robbed that game of the Tales identity. Tales of Berseria holds its own as my favorite modern game entry in the series. It respects where it comes from and builds upon that while continuing to evolve for its fans. It attempts a darker narrative in a world where the antagonists, to your perspective, appear as though they should be the good guys, while your crew mostly looks like a band of villains. It approaches themes of trauma and loss in a way that doesn't make a protagonist like Velvet appear edgy or brooding just for the sake of a revenge story. Tales of Berseria is a prequel to the title that was released before it, Tales of Zestiria. You don't have to have played that to understand everything happening in Berseria, but having the context for certain plot points and characters makes some revelations very interesting. Someone in your party is the older sibling to a main party member in Tales of Zestiria, for example. It's things like that. But as with any Tales game, there is always an ample amount of fan service for anyone who has played previous titles in the series. In short, you don't need to have played any other games to enjoy and appreciate this one. Looking at it as just Tales of Berseria, I am very happy to have a reason to play this again. As a remaster, I ask why this is even happening when we have much older titles we can put more effort into doing this for. I love that more people are going to be able to experience this and other games on more platforms. Yet at the same time, this title is already available on modern platforms. I have never had such a difficult time determining what to score a game or how to balance between its value as a remaster and judging it based on the game itself. It is absolutely worth your time, but if you wanted to play this game for cheaper and don't mind a loss of some quality of life improvements, I will still recommend the original if it's on a platform that is accessible to you. Weighing in everything that I possibly can, I would personally give Tales of Berseria Remastered an 8 out of 10. There is nothing added to this that visually or mechanically makes this dramatically better to play than the original version that was released 10 years ago. But it is still an engaging JRPG with a great cast and intriguing story that continues to pull me in the longer I stick with it. If nothing else, this gives me the opportunity to tell people to give this one a shot if they're in a good place to do so. This comes from someone who continues to be fairly critical about the series these days. But let me know what you're feeling. Will you be picking up Tales of Berseria Remastered? Do you think that they re-released Tales of Berseria simply because it was probably an easy and quick thing to do? And also, in your opinion, why do birds fly? Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you stay tuned to GVG for more in the future. Take care everyone, till we meet again.